All right, welcome everybody to today's session. We are talking about the WordPress Community of Practice, and we have with us Dave Kuhar, Justin Rent, and JB Christie. Take it away.
Hello. And so real quick, I am Director of Web Technologies for UComm, and Justin is?
I am Senior UI UX Developer on our UComm WebTech team. Sorry, my brain's boggled from the last session. And then we have JB down there, or at least on my screen.
Hi, I'm JB Christie, working with Justin, reporting to Dave. Been here at Stanford almost 9 years and working with WordPress at Stanford all that time.
She apologizes for her unstable internet connection.
Yeah, so, I'll be available on audio and anxious to talk with y'all.
Right.
Yeah, I'll add, we kind of mentioned it in the pre-chat, but I came from Drupal land. So really in the year that I've been here has been I've been sort of thrown to the wolves in WordPress land. So I may have a different perspective on some of this than, other people who have been using WordPress.
Dave and I wolves, is that?
Yeah.
You're very friendly wolves. Not
No,
one that will eat my leg or anything.
Yes, and so the history of WordPress at Stanford is can be written by JB. Actually, I think it's she was here from around the beginning, right?
Well, no, med school, the Scopes blog has been using WordPress since longer than I've been here, and the law school had already committed and was busy rebuilding their site, their 300 site multi-site in WordPress. And of course, Robert over in Arts was using.
Were you using it before JB? Before?
I mean, JB and I started at about the same time, but our primary sites were on WordPress from before I got my hands on them. So yeah, we've been running WordPress, I think, since 2010.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a while. And Christina, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? We met, but nobody else did.
Yes, we did. We started with a help. Can you guys hear me okay with the headset? Yeah. Awesome. It started with an event calendar question that turned into like, hey, we should relaunch WordPress CoP. Anyway, so I am a web administrator within the Graduate School of Business, and we are running WordPress multi-site. And as of July 1 this year, we're not supporting Drupal at all anymore. So we're all in with WordPress.
Don't tell anybody.
And
this used to be Drupal camp, Stanford Drupal camp. Just saying.
Well, it shows you how we're taking over. We have a couple of non-Stanford folks. Chris, tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Chris Gilligan, and I'm a web developer at University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, and I've been at UTC since around 2012. So right on, this is my 10-year anniversary.
Dang.
And I've been using WordPress like way before that. And the entire time I've been at UTC, and like my most recent involvement with WordPress at UTC was to pretty much completely refactor the old multi-site project and put it into a workflow that allowed us to use modern development practices and have a deployment script to deploy changes and manage it in Composer and that sort of stuff. So that's
not for nothing, but where do you host?
It's on-prem hosted. We also have Drupal for our main website, and that's hosted in Acquia.
Okay. And Bridget.
I'm Bridget Hornsby. I actually work remotely in Knoxville, Tennessee, which is where our flagship campus is. But I'm primarily a front-end developer, but I've been working in Drupal for 10 years, and then I actually worked in Flash before that. So I've been doing web development for about 20 years. So I was in Flash for 10, and of course that went by the wayside. And then with WordPress for about the last 4. So yeah.
Okay. And Alan, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Alan Scamanti. I'm at Yale and in Yale's web group, and most of our stuff is in Drupal. And but we have and we're working on the Pantheon platform. But we also have WordPress sites, and I'm involved in more the WordPress side right now than the Drupal side, but we're also
Did you say Pantheon?
yeah, we're on Pantheon for
Okay. That's where we are as well.
WordPress as well, or is that just Drupal hosting?
for both of our Drupal and
Both.
our WordPress hosting.
Okay, good to know.
I've been at Yale for about 5 or 6 years, and before that I was with IBM for 25.
All right.
So they laid me off.
All right. Well, since we're talking tenure, I've been here about a year and a half now, I guess, and Justin's been here a year and a month. So we're still baby cardinal at this point, I think. Toddler cardinal, maybe.
Yeah. Fledgling.
Yes, fledgling. So the reason we're looking at resurrecting, and for those who aren't from Stanford, a CoP is a community of practice, and it's basically an ad hoc group of people who just share an interest, and we have tons of them. The WordPress community of practice has kind of lain fallow for a few years, just out of a lack of time to deal with it. But with partly from meeting Christina, but also because we are looking at building ourselves a modern WordPress FSE theme, a set of Stanford blocks and whatnot. It's a pretty big undertaking, and we think it would be a good efforts if we were able to share the development load with other folks who know how to do WordPress development and want to learn how to do it in a modern way. So we've begun working on a list of requirements from our perspective. As University Communications, we're also kind of stewards of the brand, so we tend to stay within the lanes. But we're looking at taking what we call it's called Decanter. Decanter is a style and code library that's used as kind of a common reference point for what web elements should look like and how they stay within brand, fonts, colors, shapes, all that kind of stuff. And we're looking at taking that that work as the starting point of beginning to develop the Stanford blocks and the new Stanford theme, which we're calling El Camino. Our current theme is called Redwood. El Camino Real happens to be the road that runs alongside kind of the longest length of campus. So that's the El Camino theme. And like I said, we're in the beginning stages of it. We're in the planning stages of it. Both the developers, JB and Justin, are in the process of learning how to do it. So again, it's a good time to start looking at other WordPress people on campus and gauge their interest in being part of the planning and execution of this project. And we're kind of opening up the floor to, it's a BOF, it's a birds of a feather. We're just going to talk about WordPress and how that can go forward. JB, Justin, I welcome you guys to throw in your 2 cents.
I'll just, I was saying a little in this in the pre-chat, but Dave said we have, amongst UComm ourselves, we manage a number of WordPress sites, a few multi-sites and a few single sites. Many of them are using the classic editor theme. JB will know a lot more about these than ours. Like our news site uses a classic editor theme. It uses a custom plugin called Panels. I guess it's not a custom plugin, but it's Panels, which if you come from the Drupal world is analogous to the paragraphs module that they use, a very similar interface for the WYSIWYG. So that's, and then we have some sites that do have the Gutenberg activated, but they aren't really using Gutenberg how it should be. People can enter content in there, but there's no parity or very little parity between the editorial form and the front end, which, learning what I've learned and knowing what I know about Gutenberg. That's what makes Gutenberg awesome, is that you can be a content editor and see what your page is going to look like as you're. So that's what we're striving for, at least in my perspective, with this initiative, is to really take advantage of the most modern way that WordPress is being developed at its core, and using that to our advantage. I think from the research I've done so far, while I know there's a tons of paid plugins and things that can build pages and do different types of things, Gutenberg works. And if you do it right, it's pretty slick. And it's pretty close to, I think, at least a lot of what I've heard in my time doing this stuff, that the editorial experience that people want to have while they're creating web pages. So Dave mentioned Decanter. There's a lot of background there. If you're not a Stanford person, I'll shed a little light on that. There's a version, the major release that's out there is version 6, and it's on a dot release of some sort at this point. That's really a sort of SAS. The CSS is SCSS, and the templating is a lot of really sort of geared towards Twig. So in terms of WordPress, you gotta shim the Twig with what is it called, Timber. So it becomes complicated. I mean, we have it worked out for our sites, but it's not with Drupal at least 8. Twig is native to the CMS, so you don't really have to shim that with anything. Decanter version 7 is taking a different approach. They haven't formally released Decanter v7. It's still in sort of a beta release, but it's using Tailwind CSS. It was taking that road probably primarily because some of the projects that the Stanford Web Service is working on are using React, and Tailwind kind of comes up in that modern tool set when you get into that React world. So part of what I've been doing, and on top of learning about full site editing and Gutenberg and how those work together, is also figuring out how to get Tailwind worked into the tech stack and Decanter with Tailwind. In terms of anyone here at Stanford who's interested in this and hopefully going to join us in our march forward, those are some things to look into and see. Robert?
Yeah. Are we interested in opening up the COP to beyond Stanford? That's something that we've talked about before in like the user experience COP. And I guess in that one, it's a little different because we're often reviewing sites before they launch. So it gets into a little bit of like a privacy. We don't actually want to like announce this everywhere yet, but with like WordPress, we're kind of talking about pretty vague concepts usually, and things that aren't super duper specific to Stanford. So I would like to get like your guys' take on it, and also some of the folks that are joining us from Tennessee, like would there be interest there?
There are, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask folks to sign up in our guest book. And the reason why I'm bringing it up right now is because we're talking like Stanford internal versus opening it for community. And Robert is bringing a very good point that sometimes we want to do like more like Stanford related things. But we always, like for Stanford WebCamp, that was always a big thing that diversity and inclusion is, these are not just words. They apply to different organizations, they apply to different CMSs, they all apply to the fact that we're building the web and we want to be inclusive. And from the technology point, to take the right tool for the job. So this is why, apologies for interfering, asking guys to join, sign up the guest book. So when we do next iteration, we would know like this is open invitation for everyone. This is like for more Stanford only folks.
Yeah. I shared in Zoom Slack, or yeah, Zoom Slack, Zoom chat, a link to it's WP Campus. It's wordcampus.slack.com. If you're interested in cross-campus discussions about WordPress, that's a great place to start. I'd be pretty reticent to open a Stanford one for the reasons you mentioned, Robert. And sometimes it's more sensitive internal stuff. And if we want to open this up and get more people involved, I'd like to be able. Don't want to have the roadblock of saying, by the way, watch what you say because those evil folks from Chattanooga are listening, and we don't need that kind of thing going down. So I don't know that I could support opening that up to outside people, but I'm open to suggestions from others. JB, you had something to say.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're resurrecting the CoP now, and I think our initial focus, at least from our point of view, is developing this new El Camino theme. And as Dave mentioned, I've been developing WordPress themes since 2010, but the whole full site editing thing is a complete shift in paradigm. And Justin's new to developing themes, and he's actually more familiar with React than I am. So he has a different level of comfort. But, if we open it up to people outside of Stanford, we might get more experience and advice, from people who have had the opportunity to develop in the full site editing context. So, we could consider a monthly open CoP meeting and then another monthly meeting that's on in between weeks, like the second week of the month is everybody and the fourth week of the month is Stanford only, if we felt.
Boy.
Confidential information, but I don't foresee a lot of need for that, at least at the beginning. So,
well, we can also open up another channel. I think if we wanted to do an outside one, yeah. Christina, you raised your hand.
Sure, it might be drawing us a little off topic, but it may be relevant in the sense of let's bring some value that's not Stanford specific. I'm curious about the UComm team that you were talking about developing a custom El Camino theme. Are you developing that with the end user, or not the end user, with the usability of someone who's not technical, or are you developing this for other web administrators to manage content on websites?
I think that the intent would be a plug and play. I don't have development resources, but I need a Stanford branded WordPress website. What can I load in, activate, and off to the races? So at least from as much as the three of us have conceptualized this, I think from my understanding, that means a full site editing capable Stanford branded theme, and then a collection, because the blocks are plugins, custom blocks are plugins. So we would have a corresponding basic Stanford blocks package that would have some, useful Stanford looking custom blocks that you could use along with your full site editing theme. Is that accurate, Dave, JB?
Yeah, when I first got here in 2013, there was the Stanford Modern theme, and its goal was to just apply Stanford branding to a vanilla WordPress site, to make it easy for student groups and, smaller departments to just spin up a quick WordPress site there and get some Stanford branding. So the themes that UComm has developed follow on. We developed Cardinal and Lagunita to replace Modern. We developed Redwood to replace Cardinal and Lagunita. And that's been the kind of the core driving principle is there are people around campus who just want to spin up a quick site. They don't need anything fancy, but they want it to look Stanford-y. So I would like to maintain that as a mission statement for El Camino as well.
Yeah.
But just the nature of of entering content has changed a lot since 2014. So
yeah, one of the ways that I'd like us to extend it is, I don't know if you're aware or not, but on the Stanford Sites platform, there's actually 3 basic themes you can choose from. One that looks very much like Redwood, and they call it fully branded or something like that. There's a lightly branded, in which the Stanford wordmark goes away and a couple other things drop off. And then there's minimal, where you're away from cardinal red, and now you've got like gray footer and header bars, but it still uses Stanford fonts. If you're familiar with our look, it looks like Stanford, but it's not overtly branded as such. And that's meant for, like, you know, a professor's, his personal site or her personal site, or you know, for a student group or what have you. I'd like to see it so we could have El Camino, and then maybe we'll have one of the 2, Sand Hill and Page Mill are the other 2 roads. I don't know, and offer those as, you know, minimized versions of the thing, so the same experience is available for WordPress users.
actually, Redwood has 2 different branding options, and it's basically because the only difference between fully branded and lightly branded is the masthead and whether or not you have the word mark up there. So, and we added some additional branding options, like, you know, do you want the full Stanford brand bar at the top that has a little word mark with a link back to the home site, or do you just want a stroke, and, you know, what colors do you want? So we do have some branding options built into Redwood. And again, I'd like to do the same with El Camino. I don't want to build a whole nother theme that those are the only differences, you know. So
I think the only
that's how
reason
we use the customizer. So we use the customizer in Redwood to switch between the branding options. And in fact, if you want a fully branded website, you have to contact our team, and we have to give you a hash that allows you to use full brand.
Yeah, without that hash, you can't get the word mark. Yeah, you're breaking up again.
I'm sorry, I'm in the main house now. I'm sitting right next to the router. But where was I going with that? Yeah, so we use the customizer in Redwood to enter the hash to allow you to get full branding. And now the customizer's gone away. So we got to figure out, okay, how do I enter theme options in an FSE theme? So,
Robert.
Yeah, one of my questions is, like, so it sounds like the new theme, El Camino, will be one of the main driving interests of the COP. I'm just kind of wondering, like, what are some of the other goals to entice people into a WordPress COP? Because, like, frankly, I'm not going to use El Camino, but I do WordPress development, you know, every day. So yeah, I'm just kind of interested in, like, what other goals are there besides that one?
Well, okay, I have a question and an answer. I know you use Beaver Builder for, you know, for templating and everything else, but when it comes to actually just doing posts, do people fall back on Gutenberg for that, or are they just doing a wall of text?
They're doing, I don't usually use posts for what I'm doing. I'm mostly doing pages. So most pages are Beaver Builder. Okay.
Then the answer I have is, one other thing that we don't do as much across campus as we probably should is, who has the developer license for unlimited sites for Gravity Forms Elite or whatever? So that question came up the other day. I think it was you or somebody was asking it in WordPress. You know, I didn't answer. We don't have that one. But if there are other ones that we have that are of use to other people, then it makes sense for us to know exactly, you know, what those are. And maybe we come up with a central clearinghouse, a spreadsheet or an Airtable or something that lists those things. That would be really handy.
I think
I would like to add my 2 bits to answer the question.
WPCOP at Stanford.edu.
Robert asked. I think Dave's answering the first question is like, Dave's first question is the answer to your second question. Like, the general purpose of any community of practice is to share ideas, share approaches, share and create a community that support each other. There are some lone developers that work very well by themselves, but they're not that many. And also, at the end of the day, we're all web developers, and our task is to build good website for our audience, and we share audience because most of us work in academia. So there's a huge value in community of practice just to saying, asking this like general question like, oh, have you ever used this? Even if you don't have specific technical answer, just this brainstorming, rubber ducking, a feeling of connection, ability, even when you're preparing question that you want to ask someone. It's like, oh, actually, I have an answer myself. And now I want to share this answer with others who are thinking about this question.
Right. I completely get like the point of a community of practice. I guess I'm wondering like, is this one that we're trying to resurrect focused on users of your theme? Is it focused on developing in WordPress, or is it focused on developing this theme? So
I think it should be based on, you all might, and Dave and I are new, but one thing we always talk about, the three of us, is we don't know, beyond you, Robert, and you, Christina, we don't know, like we know like School of This is using, but like we don't know any of those people. You know, I come to UXers, I come to the Decanter calls, I come to the communities of practice that interest me, but I never really see anyone that's a WordPress developer. So they've got to be out there somewhere. And I think our goal for the community of practice should be to get us together, whether you're using full site editing, Gutenberg, Beaver Builder, it doesn't matter. I mean, just a place for us to talk about, I think a good forum. I think David Tom does a great job of running the UXers community practice, where it's less of a tactical conversation every time, and it's more of like a theoretical. Of course, when someone has something to come to the group with, like we're about to release this website and we'd love to like get your feedback on this form flow or something, like, yeah, well, sure, absolutely, we can do that. But to have to always fall back on the fact that we're just going to come together once every couple of weeks, see what's going on with everybody, what challenges you have, if you've got something to talk about, and if
do you have a code snippet to solve this problem?
You know, I mean, and from my perspective, I'm kind of focusing on that full site. So I would love to get some people who have at least dug into some of the full site editing Gutenberg, not specifically to recruit them or anything, but to just share trials and tribulations, you know, because like, especially in that stuff, the documentation is scant, it's changing every day. It's like, the one thing I've found in doing that is you really just got to keep plugging away at it until you kind of hit the epiphany. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Great. Christina, you have your hand up.
Thank you. I'm in a similar case as Robert, unless, I don't know, there's another pandemic or something, I don't know, unforeseen circumstances. I don't see us necessarily shifting to El Camino being a custom build. We've made use of a lot of really high quality third-party plugins and themes, et cetera, and made it work for us. So, you know, certainly my wish for a community practice like this is that we're all trying to get from A to B and solve very similar, you know, problems. So, you know, our solutions may deviate, and that's kind of where the information sharing would be very helpful. And on top of that, you know, I certainly would love, at least from on Stanford side of things, one of our goals is to not diverge so far from the Drupal development teams, specifically like Stanford Web Services, so that it's not drinking from a fire hose experience to go from, whoa, this is a WordPress site to, whoa, this is a Drupal, you know, site. So it beyond just our little siloed WordPress development teams across Stanford or potentially across, you know, just academia, just even within the Stanford community, like having, you know, I think that was Justin's point, essentially having some governance standards on our website so that we can kind of look, you know, pop the hood or see somewhere like who's actually supporting this site, what is it built on, you know, who's the team behind it, so we can have a little bit more of, you know, be able to reach out when it's like, hey, that's a really cool feature. How do you do that? You know, let's have a conversation.
I added a link in chat to a Google Doc I just created for notes, and welcome anybody to add anything to it that they like. So we have a good idea of well, we talked about where we can go from here. Specifically, you know, who uses WordPress at Stanford is of high interest. I know, like, I believe it's Jen Stroh that at Law uses it. I don't know who else, but if we can start putting together a list of people we actually know are using it, and maybe Robert and JB know more than the rest of us, and maybe Arenas, because she seems to know everybody, you know, but anybody who can add to that would be awesome. And Christina, I know you're at GSB, but I think it's like a subset of sites.
Yes, we're a little rogue unit within the GSB. So external marketing, basically the kind of the external sites, the gsb.stanford.edu is running on Drupal. But so our team, our visual design group at the Graduate School of Business, our clients are the faculty. So you would alluded to personal sites. That's something that we support. Supplemental course sites. We just find that it's we required the flexibility and the agility to spin up sites quickly on our own Reclaim hosting accounts without having to go through all the proper channels. And by not going through all the proper channels, that also means we are kind of rogue and unsupported if things go terribly, terribly wrong. But does that answer your question a little bit?
Absolutely, yeah, it does, yeah.
I want to add mine to this. Since you already said that I know everyone, I think that the end of life and migration of end of life for Drupal 7 and migration of the platform, the migration of sites, specifically sites platform, is a huge change because new Drupal 9 platform is very different from previous Drupal 7 platform. And some people can't do things that they used to do. And that pushes them to seek different approaches. And WordPress has lots of options, especially I work with a group of Christina and GSB. I think that that's fabulous approach because it opens WordPress platform to faculty and to students. It is a good alternative to domains because domains are more generic and it's like not in-house hosting and they have less support. So I think that spreading the word about this great tools would be a great goal for CoP because then there are more people working with this tool.
Christina, you mentioned Reclaim. Isn't that off of the domains platform, or did you go to them directly?
We this decision predates me, but we have our own account and licensing with Reclaim.
Okay.
I'm curious from the folks who are outside of Stanford, you know, what kind of resources are available to, I know like Chris mentioned that they have both Drupal and WordPress sites. Do you have any base theme options like this available to people? And how do you all deal with this sort of conundrum? or is everything just custom built for whoever needs it?
Well, so we're only running a single Drupal site.
Oh.
And it's a massive site, you know, 5,000 some odd pages, a page for every administrative and academic department or college. So, or, you know, a subsection of the site for them. So it's pretty easy to keep branding consistent on that. On the WordPress multi-site, we've got an older legacy theme that we custom developed. It was a child theme of a Bootstrap framework theme. And so spinning up a site spinning up a site that was, that had that branding was pretty easy. We do have like one or two other, maybe one or two out of 66 sites on there that use a generic WordPress theme for one reason or another. Don't know if that
Generally, all of
answers
your
the question.
WordPress sites are contained in that multi-site. You don't have like,
Yeah,
you don't have like school of whatever spinning up their own and hosting their own WordPress, and then the other school is spinning up their own and hosting their other WordPress thing.
no,
Okay.
we're pretty extremely centralized in terms of the developers, and
See.
so you're seeing the entire pretty much public web development team here.
Right.
Three people. And so
Wow.
we tend to try to make, something that works for content editors in the colleges and the departments, but that we don't really have distributed expertise in web development in each department.
I see. Yeah, we're the opposite. You said the keyword centralized. Well, the Wild West here at Stanford, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're also making use of the multi-site functionality. There's no way we can manage. I think we're at 100, maybe, let's just say 100 sites right now, and you're looking at a team of 1.5 people.
Oh my goodness.
So just from a version control standpoint, which is already kind of hard to keep an eye on. If we weren't using multi-sites, there's no way.
Not possible. You're right.
Yeah, you get to the point where you've got the 50 or 60 plugins, and so from that standpoint, it gets a little bit rough, but yeah, we don't really have other people creating and hosting websites.
I see.
We have a couple of rogues, but we're bringing those back into the fold. Yeah.
And you've said, did you say that you were working on a full site editing Gutenberg theme to release? Did you say that you were working on that right now?
It's a Genesis Pro. So I've created a theme under, a child theme under the Genesis Pro, which uses the Gutenberg, blocks and stuff like that. We've also integrated Tailwinds with that. Yeah, so, and that's been real helpful because we use Tailwinds also on our Drupal site. Yeah.
Sounds familiar.
We also work with, I guess Bernardo hopped off, but he's working with having the feeds from the blogs to our blogs into the Drupal site. So that's why we were also in the calendar thing, because we've got both the blogs wanting to feed into the Drupal site, and then we've also got the calendar events wanting to feed into the Drupal site as well. So those are big plates we're working on. So.
Yeah, for 3 people, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Wow, impressive.
Well, we do have a project manager as well.
Hey, that's important. Ask me.
Yeah. Please go talk to the clients, go talk to the executives, tell us what they need, and then manage their expectations.
Well, I have a left turn question, if that's okay with everybody.
Yeah.
How do you, the power of WordPress is that it is such a ubiquitous and powerful platform. It's the world is your oyster. And as we kind of alluded to, you can have all the plugins in all the world. How do you all think about, gathering feedback and gathering requests and keeping kind of a leash on the types of features that you're going to support, the types of plugins that you're going to test and roll out to your production sites? Any kind of thoughts on that?
JB, if your audio is working, you want to chime in? I know she's sitting right next to the router and she still has issues. As far as plugins are concerned, I can suggest the best practice. I don't know exactly how we should do this, but one of the things that I would do in your situation, Christina, is definitely come up with, this is what we can offer in this platform. Generally, the people you're building them for, you're servicing, they're not really going to know how far the thing can be taken. So in my opinion, offering more and more and more is really just going to strangle you to death over time, because it's more and more things you need to test and support. And another thing about myself, before I worked here, I ran my own little agency for like 20 years. And I did that because I started doing WordPress in 2007. You know, the best tool at the time is what we employed. And over the years, of course, that went from one to the next to the next. We ended up supporting 4 or 5 plugins with similar functionality. With the market a lot more mature now than it was then, you know, the leaders have kind of established themselves. So it's like, am I going to do WP Forms or Gravity Forms or Formidable? I'm going to pick one and stick with it forever. Use Formidable, by the way. But pick the one pick the one that's best for your use case and you think is going to cover most things that you want, and just stick with it. And if people ask for things that it can't do, well, sorry, it can't do that. Unless you have people with the talent to write an extension for the plugin and it's extensible. Also, don't buy plugins that aren't extensible. So, you know, that kind of thing, like Robert is in the Beaver Builder, or you're into Elementor. You guys both know how many third-party products or fourth-party products there are for those systems, and that's why they're so strong, because there's so many things there. And in another philosophy I always had with plugins was, if I was looking on the repository, immediately you're like, okay, is this going to be here in a month? Is it going to be here in a week? It's going to be here for 2 years. And you kind of want to look for established developers and not random guy in basement who might have a fantastic idea, but next week they're going to go work at Jimmy John's and you'll never see an update to that plugin again. So, you know, that's how the entire Drupal world, no, I just had to say that for Justin's sake. But that's how I would manage that in your instance, to try to keep a tight rein on it.
Sure. Well, it's, you know, beyond just even plugins, it's potentially, you know, aspects of the design, as we all were talking about, of, you know, lightly branded options. What does that pipeline look like in terms of feedback? Because, you know, one of the things you said at the top of this meeting was to, you know, get some folks involved in what are the requirements as you're building El Camino. So that's like a very technically savvy audience, but what about the, you know, kind of the customer base, the other people who are not maybe technically as savvy? How does that look in all of your experiences to weigh the various stakeholders versus the, you know, the end customers, and when to say, yes, it's worth you know, researching and committing to developing this request, whatever it is, and when to say no.
I think that, like Chris mentioned in that, you know, we don't have one either on our 3-person webcom team, WebTech team, but a project manager could, if you don't, I don't know if you have a project manager, but often, previous to coming here, I worked 3.5 to 4 years at a development agency. So I was very used to that shield of anyone and everyone just asking me for everything they ever wanted and having a hard time saying no, because by nature I want to help people. And like oftentimes they'll have an idea and I'm like, that's a good idea, sure, like that would be great, that would be cool, I would love to have that too. And here I go in my cave trying to make that happen for them, along with the other 100 things I'm trying to make happen for the other 100 people. And that's just like not healthy, right? It's just not. So in a lot of ways, I don't know if this is a bad answer to your question, but it has to come down to, like, I think like Dave suggested, is some sort of like spec doc. Doesn't have to be a technical spec doc, but like to the people on your platform, like this is what the platform offers and this is what it does. And, you know, beyond that, we can have a conversation about what you would like to see happen. From what I see in the team I've joined here is like, oftentimes we have functionality that'll do that. The content editors don't always know how to use the website the right way, honestly. So it's like, well, yeah, like instead of immediately going and opening my IDE and started writing a new plugin to do something, I'm like, well, did you know you could just use this widget and do that? I mean, it might not be exactly what you described, but it's pretty darn close, right? And I find that that part of like editor customer education can also be lacking. So it's like making sure that the people using the thing actually know how to use it is maybe step one, right? Because I think we as developers spend so much time in our whole like making it right and making sure the code's right and it works right, and we're testing and we're testing, and then it's just off, and then we're on to the next thing.
Yeah, we
never explain to anyone how it works. Like,
right. But we're trying to get out of that pattern with the events calendar. That's why it's such an extensively documented site on the events help site. And we really don't have a lot of problem telling people, platform simply doesn't do that. And like JB did an amazing job of resurrecting the much beloved bookmarking tool from the old one. And that was an instance where we could stretch a bit and offer something, but it's not always going to be that way. And thankfully for us, our users have been understanding that it is what it is, and we can't do everything for everybody.
I think there's a community of practice that's product management. And the interesting thing I've heard in conversations with that community of practice is, the idea that a lot of the folks involved in that want product management to be recognized as a discipline, a job description, job discipline in the university, because I think in industry, you see a lot more of that by title, and those are people who manage the product life cycle, all of the intake and all that stuff, and the big grand vision. And when you don't have a person that's removed from the implementation of it, it gets really hard to manage that, yet alone talk about it with someone when they're just asking you to make the button green or something that seems trivial, to them.
I would like to add to this here. I think I added also more than 2. I think is getting closer to 64 bits by this time. But I think the point about sharing the knowledge and training and delivering it's. I would love to see this as one of the goals for this CoP, because the reason why we keep bringing webcam back is because we have so much technology and so little understanding by users, by people who were supposed to serve, of what's actually available, and we keep moving from one technology to another rather than learning what we already have. And it is so exciting to see WordPress community. One of the great things about Drupal community was in the time that there was a lot of learning, lots of training, lots of information spreading, sharing with people, right? And it would be amazing to see this WordPress community being in the same pool. And this is so important. So Robert, I think your question was like, what do you want to do with this CoP? So it's just a wish list. I would hope that in addition to, working among developers and sharing ideas between people who build sites, there will be also a lot of information for people who use sites.
Yeah, I think that would be an advantage of an active community practice with people like yourself, Christina. When you feel inundated with these kinds of things, to have a group of people that you can, come to and explain what's going on and get some at least mental support, if nothing else, or someone might have a solution for you, if it's not an overly complicated thing, but sometimes it just helps to talk it out the approach with some people who know what you're dealing with, than to, sort of cry in your cave by yourself.
Inundated, what is that? Drupal 7. Sorry, we're in the thick of it right now. Yes. But
what was the question?
I was just joking about being inundated, but yeah, having people who at least can be like, I know how, I've been there, I've been on the front lines. But half the time I find that I'm the worst culprit, right? Where, like, as you mentioned, it's like the people who are using the sites don't even know what's available. And so I find out, or like, oh, there's this cool new tool. If we roll it out, then it'll be a dynamic link between this thing and the other thing. It's like, all right, we can't do all the things all the time. We need to edit. We need to edit as much as we add to. So just kind of curious about like how you all handle, as you were saying, kind of the product management piece of what we're offering, each one of our teams within our universities.
I think from what I see in my year with the UComm team and the sites we manage, we do a lot of Zooms with our colleagues who are writers, say entering content in the news site, and they'll ask a question, how can I do this, or how can I do that? Again, a lot of the times it's like, well, you can do that, let me show you how. Or sometimes talking through, and how do I say this? I think it's hard to the web is such a fluid medium, and some things can be done so quickly, but I've explained to some other people, like in scenarios where you have bigger teams, a release cycle is there for a reason, right? So when you have a team of people developing software, whether it's a website, an app, whatever it is, there's a release cycle, and the work follows that release cycle for a reason. And while things can change sometimes easily on a website, it's not just the fact that it can change easily. There's testing involved, and there's moving it through environments and all these things that you have to do to make that happen, that most people just don't even know or probably care about. And that can be a hard thing, but to know that this, again, was the way the website is developed, and this is what it does today, is important. And it's gonna have to, I think you have to somehow there has to be a prioritization of like things that are hard are going to take a while. What does that mean? That's something to define, I guess, but it's not easy, that's for sure. Because people will often say, well, see this website, I want to do that. Can you just do that? That's a WordPress website. And you're like, okay, here we go.
So I'm curious, moving forward, we were talking about this as a community of practice, and we've also talked about, having a Slack channel, or would that open up to beyond just a Stanford campus kind of a thing? I find that information goes to die on Slack channels. So does anyone have any thoughts about, like, I don't know, a wiki or some sort of repository of information, so it isn't like each one of our teams, like if I discover something that's particularly helpful, how can I contribute and give back to the community, certainly within Stanford or potentially beyond, in a meaningful way that other people can find it?
Is there
any thoughts?
Yeah, is there any reason we can't use the WordPress CoP site for that?
Nobody's
touched it in 6. I know, right? Yeah, I have no idea where it's hosted or whatever, but JB, I'm sure, knows how to get in. Nothing's been added since August of 2016. So just give everybody an author access and let them write a post when something comes up.
Yeah.
It's at least a place to, it's at least a scratch pad. If we need to formalize it, we can do something about that. But I think it's easy. Robert just raised his hand and said he wants to redesign the whole thing in Beaver Builder, so that's fine. He's like, no, no, no.
I could do it in 3 hours.
I know you could. I know you could. Yeah, why not? You know?
Yeah, I would say I'm so used to Slack myself. I understand it. Things can get pushed up and beyond the scroll, and you forget
Yeah.
about it for sure.
Right.
But coming from a fully remote agency of many people to here has been a little bit of whiplash, because I was used to like Slack literally being my like live like lifeline, right?
Yeah.
To here, you know, I mean, we have remote people and it works within our group, but it's a little different.
I think
Well,
also,
go ahead.
oh, go for it. All right. We were talking about clearing out the Slack channel as it exists
Yeah.
right now, because there's an RSS feed that posts about, 500 times more than any person does to that Slack, which just kind of drowns out the actual voice. Also, just setting up a monthly meeting and
Yep.
like, hey, if there's only 2 of us there, we can, talk about WordPress, and if there's more, cool. But like getting that out there, I mean, UX sometimes only has 3 people at it, and sometimes it has like 12. So, fluctuates.
I would agree with that. If we, that's, I think, was our sort of goal in raising this flag of like, let's just get together. I mean, of course, we've already laid out what our plans are, and if you're doing that work, we'd love people to help, but we can contribute in other ways, whether, you don't have the time to develop blocks for El Camino, but if there's no topic for the day, we're happy to say, here's what we're doing. Here's what it looks like. I don't know how to get from A to B. So if anyone has any ideas, I don't know, but the progress we're making, sort of likewise, if you're doing something with your sites and show and tell sort of thing, because we're not all, as Chris said, we're not all contained in the same department, so we're not all working together all the time. So if we could get together for an hour or so every so often and just bang heads a little bit, I think that'll help, and making the Slack channel be more conversational than that feed bugs me too. I do find some good things occasionally in there, but if someone were to post in there, I'd probably never ever see it, because immediately after it is 10 WP Tavern blog posts.
It is now 1 p.m. and would like to thank everyone for participating in this conversation. Dave, Justin, JB is not on the call anymore. If you want to say any closing remarks, or otherwise I'll close the recording.
Yeah, JB, you can close the recording, and I'll say this after you close it off.